Hi there, thanks for joining me. Today we're talking about how to solve problems in the workplace and why that is absolutely essential for creating happier workplaces. And I saw a great example of this a few years ago. I was talking at a conference, and one of the other speakers was the HR director of a huge international company. And in this company, every year, the CEO did a roadshow to travel to all of their international locations to present the year's strategy, the results from the previous year, and any new things that were coming. And there will be like a couple of thousand employees in each location listening to this roadshow. And as part of this, the employees could, of course, ask questions. And this company gave out a prize. They gave out a little statuette of a holy cow. This is not it. This is just a picture I found on the internet. But a little statuette of the holy cow of a holy cow that they gave to the employee who asked the most critical question. Yeah, whoever was complaining, whoever was challenging leadership, whoever was like negative and had like, why aren't you doing this? Just last year you said you were going to do this, you haven't done it, what's up? That person got a little statuette of a holy cow to show that all questions were okay. There are no holy cows in this organization. You can ask whatever you need to know. And I thought that was a great example of how you give your employees a voice, not just for the things that are nice and positive, which are important and we should, but also for the things that are negative and challenging. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to keep it short and snappy and be done in half an hour or less. And these are the topics that I want to cover. First of all, why is it not enough to just do good things for employees? Why do we also need to fix the problems? We're going to talk about how to identify and solve problems in the workplace. We're going to talk about how to handle the problems without losing sight of all the good things at work. And I'm going to give you a lot of great examples from workplaces who are doing this. Why are we even talking about this topic? And and here's what I've seen. I've been in this field for over 20 years. I've helped so many workplaces become happier workplaces. And of course, companies do this for two reasons. First of all, they know that happy companies make more money. And also, many companies can tell that their employees are not as happy and engaged and motivated as they could be. So they're like, how do we fix that? And the starting point for by far the vast majority of companies is, okay, what can we do for our employees to make them happier? And the list of things you could do is enormous. All kinds of perks, yoga classes, fitness gyms, at gym in the office, offsites, parties, events, team buildings, that kind of thing. And I don't have anything against all of these things as such, but I'm not sure they can stand alone. And here's the thing: these things are easy, they're fun, they're comfortable. They can be very expensive, but they're not hard to do, and they're certainly not challenging in any way, right? It feels good to do things, nice things for your employees. But here's the thing: there is no perfect workplace. All workplaces have problems. You could go visit the happiest workplaces in the world, and they would also have problems. And we need to handle those problems. We need to take our employees' problems seriously and do something about them. Because if we don't, if the workplace only does good, nice, kind things for the employees and completely ignores all of their problems, that is going to seem incredibly fake and superficial to employees. Employees will be like, we're massively overworked. Our managers treat us like crap. We hate our workplace, and here you come, and you want to give us cake every Friday. That's not only it's not only not gonna work, it's most likely going to backfire because it sends a signal that yeah, we know things could be better, but we're not willing to tackle the actual problems. So here's cake every Friday. It is just not going to work. And again, having visited many of the world's happiest workplaces, I can tell you what one thing they're all really, really good at is identifying and fixing the problems that employees are facing. And this is absolutely essential that we do that. One reason why this is so essential is negativity bias. Negativity bias is one of the most well understood and well studied phenomena in psychological research. And it's basically the idea that anything that's negative has a larger influence on us than anything that's positive. There are no exact numbers, but like some people are say like one bad experience will hit you as much as 3 good experiences. Like it's a 1-to-3 ratio. Some say it's 1-to-5. It doesn't really matter. We know that our minds are more attuned to anything that's negative, anything that's a potential threat, anything that might harm us. And we know that negative experiences affect us more strongly than positive experiences do. So we need to acknowledge this in the workplace. So what's interesting here is that, taking away one problem, taking away one negative experience for an employee might be as effective as doing 3 nice or 5 nice things for that person. So it might actually have an even larger effect than all of the nice things we're also trying to do. Very, 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 very important psychological phenomenon. Another reason why we need to fix the problems in the workplace is that fixing problems feels amazing. If I as an employee can be like, I actually think we have this problem, and then I get to fix it, or the company fixes it, that'll give me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride, a sense of results. I made a difference. That feels amazing. And if employees have problems, but they see those problems being fixed, it'll give them hope and optimism for the future. If I'm like, I know I have a problem, but it got fixed, then you have this belief that the next time I have a problem, that'll also get fixed. If the opposite happens, I've had this problem for 2 years now and nobody's doing anything about it, that's when you create apathy and in employees, and they just give up in advance. One example that I've seen of this comes from the book The Southwest Airlines Way by Jodie Harford-Cattell. This book is amazing. You should read it. One of the things they're really good at Southwest Airlines is fixing conflicts. So if 2 employees have a conflict, their managers are trained in inviting those 2 employees into a meeting where they can talk through what happened. And what will usually happen is that, something went wrong and these 2 employees are mutually blaming each other. They'll come into this meeting, they'll have a productive discussion, and they'll actually come out of this meeting with a stronger and more positive relationship than they had before the conflict happened. So this is an example of how solving problems can actually make things better than they were before. And again, a knock-on effect of this is also that, so the next time I as an employee have a conflict with a coworker, I know that it can be fixed and it'll be not as much of a big deal. And I think that is incredibly, incredibly important. Of course, interpersonal conflict is just one of the many, many types of problems that employees can have. We're going to talk about some more of those later. So fixing problems feels amazing. Ignoring problems in the workplace makes employees apathetic, makes them give up in advance. Yeah, I know I have this problem, but why should I even say anything? Nobody's going to do anything about it anyway, no matter how much I complain. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have 5 tips that I want to give you and give you some concrete examples of how this can be done. Let's go through it. Tip number 1, you got to help employees complain. You might even actively encourage them to complain, to raise any problems and issues they see. I saw a fantastic example of this. I was in New York to give a talk, and I met with a man who works at an energy company in Brooklyn. He used to be a Catholic priest, and now he worked for this company. And his title inside the organization was the corporate ombudsman. So he was this figure that, if any employee had any issue inside the organization, they knew they could go to him and talk to him. And as a priest, he was trained to listen to whatever people had to say. And then he reported directly to the CEO. So any problems that he saw, any issues that he believed needed to be fixed, he could take those straight to upper management. And I think that is a fantastic example. This idea that if I as an employee have a problem, a complaint, something that's not working for me, I know exactly where to go. I think that's incredibly powerful. And we need to create this idea that people are allowed to complain. But we also need to realize that there are 2 kinds of complaining. There's the kind of complaining where you can, complain to everyone, even people who have no influence on the issue, and the kind of complaining where people always complain, right? Nothing's ever good enough. No matter what's going on, we can find fault in it, and I call that destructive complaining. And then there's the kind of complaining where you complain to the person who can help you do something about it, and then you complain when there's a problem, but the rest of the time you're positive. And I call that constructive complaining. And I want to say this right away, that destructive complaining is actually one of the problems in a workplace that we need to fix. When I talk to people in workplaces around the world, this is something they very, very often mention as something that makes them unhappy. When there's a constant atmosphere of just complaining and bickering in the office, and nothing's ever good enough, and whatever is happening, people just complain about it. That sucks. That really makes people miserable at work. So destructive complaining, we need to see what we can do to minimize that. But the constructive complaining, we need to foster it. We need to give people an avenue to complain constructively whenever they see a problem. Um, I think, and a lot of managers are like, when people complain, that means they're disengaged. No, if people complain constructively, that means they're engaged. It means they care. Why should I complain to somebody unless I believe that they can fix it? Destructive complaining, on the other hand, is a sign that people have given up. And by the way, no complaining, just accepting whatever problems there are, because it's not going to help anyway, is a sign that people have given up. They're not engaged anymore. They really, really don't care. So we really need to foster this constructive complaining. And by the way, if we don't do that, if people try, I see a problem and I try to get it fixed, and I see the same problem again a year later and I try to get it fixed and nothing ever happens, that's when people fall into the destructive complaining. That's when people just start to complain about whatever, or they just give up completely and never complain about anything, which is also a problem. So we need to foster this. And we can do this by making sure that people know where to go with their problems. If I have a problem with my laptop, I know how to take that. I know to take that to the IT help desk. But what if I have a problem with my workload? What if I have a problem with my boss? What if I have a problem with a coworker? Do I know where to go? What if I see a huge problem with this new initiative that the company is starting next month? Do I know where to go? That is super important. I think that corporate ombudsman is a fantastic idea. Very often, you should be able to go to your immediate manager and get help there. But what if your immediate manager is the problem, right? Then maybe you can go to HR, maybe you can go to your boss's boss. But the important thing is that you know where to go. And I'll just mention that in the software that I helped create called Heart Count, which is the best damn tool for measuring happiness at work, one of the features is that every week when you rate your workplace happiness, you can also give feedback to management. And you can do so with your name signed on it, or you can do it anonymously, and then that information will go straight to management, who can then respond to it in an appropriate way. This tool was developed by a company called Vega IT in Serbia. They're amazing, fantastic culture, and they use it internally themselves. So if some employee somewhere sees a problem, this goes straight to their CEO, Sasha, and then Sasha will raise this issue either with the person, or if it's a company-wide issue, maybe talk about that in their next all-hands meeting or in a video to the company. I think that is a fantastic way to do it. But the important thing is that people know that complaining is okay. Complaining is allowed. It will not get you punished. It will actually, mean that your problem is addressed in some way. That was tip number one. Make sure that you foster the constructive complaining. Tip number two, address the right problems first. And how do you do that? We developed a little tool that I want to describe very briefly, and then I'll actually, with the video materials, I share a document that describes step by step how to do this process. We call it the problem matrix. And the idea is that you can do this in your team or in a project team. You can't do it with a whole company. That'd be too much. But in a team with like 10, 20 people, you'll put this matrix on a whiteboard or on the wall. On the vertical axis, you'd have small problems going up to big problems. And on the horizontal axis, you'd have easy to solve going to hard to solve. And then the idea is that every person on the team can grab some Post-its, and then whatever problem you see, write it on a Post-it, announce it to the rest of the group, and then stick it on the matrix wherever you think it belongs. And you could be like, we got a new coffee machine and it really sucks. The coffee's much too weak. And you could be like, that's a small problem and it's probably easy to solve. And then you stick it on the matrix wherever you think it belongs. Everybody can contribute all their problems. And that'll give you an overview of what are some of the issues we're facing. And maybe we're facing some of the same issues. Or maybe there is a problem, but I'm the only one who actually thinks it's a problem. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. And that process can be really, really interesting. And then you can look at this plan and you can say, okay, we can, maybe we have 20 problems in our team. We can't tackle 20 problems, but maybe we can pick 3 and fix those first and then move on to the next ones. So this is really a chance to, air out all your problems, see what is bugging people, and then prioritize it. And when you pick the ones you want to solve first, where on this plan should you look? You should obviously look at big problems that are easy to solve. If there are some big problems that are actually fairly easy to solve, that would be the perfect place because they're easy to solve, but they're going to have a big impact. I'll give you an example. I was doing a workshop for a Danish NGO, and they did this exercise in the team. And one of the problems was, the printer on the first floor does not work, and it hadn't worked for like 3 months. And it was actually really annoying because they had to go, downstairs into another building up on the fourth floor, and then, get their printouts there. That was super annoying for the people in that building. So, getting that fixed, getting that out there, actually made a huge difference. Not, for these people working day to day. So this is definitely a really cool model for prioritizing problems and solving the right problems first. The ones that really bug us that we can do something about quickly. And then when you've solved those problems quickly, then maybe you can tackle some of the ones that are a little harder to solve. Now you have the energy. You've built up some momentum in fixing problems. Very, very handy tool. I'll put a description to exactly how to do it in the video materials. Tip number 3, communicate and act quickly. If people raise a problem, do something about it now, not 6 months from now. And I saw a great example of this. This is from a company in South Africa that I visited in Cape Town. And they had this whole process where every employee could raise issues, problems, suggestions, and then people, their coworkers, could vote on whether they agreed that this was a problem or this was worth doing. And if at least 10% of the organization believed that yes, this was indeed worth doing, then management had to act on it within the next 2 weeks. It would be raised on the next management meeting. And then management could either say, you know what, you're right, we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to fix it. Or management could be like, you know what, we recognize this is a problem, we know this is an issue, but here's why we can't do anything about it right now. For instance, parking. It was hard, they were in a part of an office complex, and parking spaces were hard to find, and then there's here's why we can't do anything about that right now, with graphs and figures that's actually on the board here right now. What I also like about this plan is that it also shows all of the initiatives that they are doing right now or have done recently. And there's a graveyard where they park the ones that they're like, yeah, either nobody agreed that it was a problem or we can't do anything about it right now. So the important thing here is that if I raise an issue, I know that it'll either be fixed or I'll get a really good explanation quickly of why it can't be fixed and maybe what we're going to do instead. And I think speed matters here. It's good to know that stuff will happen quickly rather than in 3 months or 6 months. Cool. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4. If we solve a problem, we should celebrate it, right? We should communicate it. We should put it out there. Yeah, the sales team used to have this problem and now they don't. Here's what they did. Here's what happened. Here's why this is a great thing. In whatever internal communication channels we have, internal newsletters and intranet, internal videos, internal webinars, I don't care, but in some way communicate, like they did at Quirk, where they put the initiatives that are happening, they're putting that on the board so you can see that, yes, this stuff works, we're fixing our problems, we're addressing our issues. You can do that inside your own team, you can do it with the whole company. If you have an all-hands meeting, that will be a great place to say, here's somebody raised this issue, then we did this about it, and now apparently that issue is fixed. That will be amazing. And again, if people see issues being fixed, then they will be more positive and more optimistic than next time they run into a problem. Their immediate attitude will be, yeah, that's a problem, but it'll probably be fixed. As opposed to, yeah, that's a problem, and nothing will probably ever happen. So celebrating the problems that we solve is really, really important. And I heard about a company that had monthly all-hands meetings for all 200 employees. And part of that was that employees could raise problems, again, anonymously or in person. And then at the next meeting, they then follow up and say, yeah, and by the way, we raised this problem last time. It's not been fixed. We raised this problem. It's been fixed. We raised this one. Hasn't been fixed yet, but we're working on it, or we can't actually fix it right now, and here's why. So celebrating those problems that we do solve, either in our little teams or with the whole organization, super, super important. Otherwise, we tend to forget that it was ever a problem, and we're just focus on the next problem. Cool. And then my tip number 5 here is that We can't only focus on the problems. We also need to focus on what's good in the workplace. And again, negativity bias means that our minds are just more open to anything that's negative, anything that's a threat, anything that's bad. Your focus automatically goes there, and that is why this destructive complaining can be so damaging inside an organization, because it trains us to again and again and again and again focus on the negative, which already is our natural tendency. So what we really need to do is to create structures where we can focus on the positive. What are the things we like about our jobs? What are the things we like about our coworkers? What is going well? What are we succeeding at? What goals are we achieving? And I do think we need to make a conscious effort to focus on those things, because we will automatically focus on the negative. We won't automatically focus on the positive. We can train our ability to focus on the positive, but we need to work at it. So one thing I also always recommend is that in our teams, if you have regular weekly or monthly team meetings, maybe the first item on the agenda for every team meeting is something positive that happened since the last meeting. I recommend that managers talk to their employees and are like, so what do you like about your job? And also, what are some problems I can maybe fix for you? I saw a Danish company introduce like a weekly gratitude diary for their employees, that every Friday you could write down 3 things you were grateful for at work this week, like a help of a coworker or a nice client you met or whatever. You write that down and share it with everybody in your team. But celebrating what's good in the workplace, really focusing on that is super important. Also, the results we achieve. One of our clients here in Denmark is a government agency that has, again, a monthly all-hands meeting, a breakfast the first Monday of every month, 200 employees. And part of that meeting is that the CEO of the whole agency will always highlight 3 wins they have had in the agency since the last meeting. And I think that's a fantastic practice. And again, helps us to focus on the positive, because so here's the thing. If we want to create a good workplace, we need both the good and the bad. We need to do nice things for people so they have a good workplace, but we also need to take away their problems. We can't just focus on the problems alone, and we can't focus on the good things alone. And I think the temptation for many organizations is to focus on the good things alone, because that's fun, it's easy, it's comfortable, it's nice. Whereas focusing, if you as a manager go to your team and ask them, hey, are you experiencing any problems right now? Something I can help you with? One of the answers might be, yes, actually, you're a problem. Here are some things you do that I don't enjoy, or that makes my work life harder. Those are the kinds of answers that you might get, and those are challenging. Those are not nice to hear. But if that is the case, you need to hear it, and you need to do something about it. And that's why we need to do this. I heard somebody say once that people are happy to go the extra mile for the company, but not if you keep putting stones in their shoes. And I think that is exactly correct. All of those little annoyances, all of those problems we see in daily work life, we need to fix those. There are many types of problems. It can be anything from interpersonal conflict, bad management behavior. High workloads are very typical problem. Unclear work demands, that kind of thing. And whatever it is, we need to fix it and address it. Cool. Let me check and see if there are any questions that I can answer. And yes, this is a good one. What can you do as an employee? If your company isn't doing this, or if your manager isn't doing this. I mean, of course, you can try and fix some things. And if it's an interpersonal conflict, I guess you could go to the person you have a conflict with and say, hey, can we talk this through? I'd like to restore our relationship. But let's fix it. If the problem is a little bigger than that, like high workloads, company-wide, you're not going to fix that as an employee. You're going to have to raise the issue with somebody. So, with your immediate manager would be the obvious choice. If the manager is the problem, then maybe HR, maybe the boss's boss, maybe your company has some kind of mentorship program, and you have a mentor. Maybe there's a coach inside the organization you can go to. I do believe this would be an ideal role for HR, but very often HR is completely swamped with administrative tasks and hiring and firing and contracts and that kind of thing. So that's a shame. So as an employee, there are obviously many things you can do, but sometimes you will need management help or HR's help to get your problems fixed. And then the other question, sorry. The other question was, what types of problems are most common in the workplace today? And those are the ones I just talked about. High workloads, bad management behavior, interpersonal conflict, and one that I think is I see a lot is also, a sense of purposelessness in my work. I do all of this work, but who am I actually helping? Am I helping any coworkers? Am I helping the client? Why? How is my work important? How do I make a difference? That is just super important. Cool. Thank you for tuning into this. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy.